WPPM LP Philadelphia.
I've been waiting a long time for this. I've been waiting so long for this. Knew I was gonna get to tap it back in the beginning. And if you want it, you can have it. You just gotta stick with it. I've been waiting a long time for this. I've been waiting so long for this. Knew I was about to get it way back in the beginning. And if you want it, you can have it. You just gotta stick with it. I've been waiting a long time for this. I deserve it. I've been working and the time is here. Knew it was gonna belong to me way back in the beginning. If you want it, you can have it. You just gotta stick with it. I've been waiting a long time for this. I deserve it. I've been working and the time is here. Knew it was gonna belong to me way back in the beginning. If you want it, it's there. You just gotta go get it.
It's the Career Seeker Show live on WPPM 106.5 Philadelphia. I'm your host and the world's #1 diversity recruiter, Kenneth L. Johnson, and I've been waiting a long time to bring you the Career Seekers team. Tiffany Southerland, career coach, Alberta Blum, recruitment coach, videographer, Bruce Savage, and together we're your #1 source for job search and career information. We'll be back after the break.
The Career Seeker Show on WPPM FM Philadelphia. Insightful advice for those seeking more than just a job, but a career from the nation's top diversity recruiter, Kenneth L. Johnson. Whether you're starting your career, changing careers, or looking for that next great opportunity, the Career Seeker Show provides a virtual GPS that delivers real career advice that leads you to your career destination.
It's Career Seeker Show live, WPPM LP Philadelphia 106.5 FM. We are definitely in the building. Kenneth L. Johnson, cameraman extraordinaire Bruce Savage is in the building with us today. No Tiff South, no Alberta Blum, but we got him for next week. Next week's going to be a great show as well, and I'll speak about that later on in the show. But I'm just excited today to tell you all that sitting next to me, I have a gentleman that I've been speaking to for several months, but I'm just getting the opportunity to kind of sit next to him and say, man, thank you for all that you do. Mike Mannon, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Man,
we really appreciate you being here. I guess let's just cut right to it. Tell the listeners who you are.
So my day job, I guess you would say, is I have a corporate training company that's been in business for probably as long as any corporate trading company around, 38 years now.
Wow, really?
Yeah. First,
started this when he was 2.
That's right.
Yeah.
2.5.
2.5 years old, yeah.
Started by 4 women.
Oh, yeah?
First women-owned training company, I think, anywhere.
Anywhere. We're going to go somewhere else with that later on.
But
I think that probably explains your commitment to diversity and inclusion.
It's a big part. I mean, I bought the company 3 years ago, I guess. I've worked with them for 20 years.
Okay.
And I knew from the interview, in your ballpark, I knew from the pre-interview that I wanted to be there the rest of my career.
Wow.
You don't know that stuff.
No.
I mean, you have no idea. But they asked me, I remember them asking me in the interview, the 4 women asking me in the interview, what do you want to do long term? And I said, if it's what you're explaining this to be, I want to do this.
Okay.
I want to do this.
So it was kind of a panel. You were interviewing with the 4 owners.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was, I was 26, 27 maybe, just coming back to the U.S. I'd been abroad, and I didn't know that kind of thing existed. And to work for women for the 15, 20 years that I did was so incredibly amazing. The support that I got was unbelievable, and the way they groomed me to now run the business was something I could never repay.
That's an excellent story. I love it.
But it does inform so much of what we believe in terms of diversity. And my story coming to you, I'm sure we'll get around to, was an interesting one too, because it was also a story that 2 other women sort of led me in the direction of.
Okay.
It's interesting. I had a white woman and I had a black woman. Both tell me, probably within 6 months of each other, hey, have you ever looked at who your consultants are? Have you ever looked on your website, like I know your clients do, and look at the faces on your website? Because they all look the same.
Wow. You know, it's interesting that you say that. So there's a client that we work with, Join for Social Justice. They're a Jewish social justice organization based out of Boston. And when we initially started having conversations with them, that's what led them to us. They looked at their website and said, oh, you know, because they were looking at the people that they're delivering services to.
Right.
And then they were looking at who they were, and they said, you know what, we want to do this, but we want to do it right. We want to add diversity at the higher ranks of our organization. So they presented a director of operations and a director of programs that they wanted to address. But it was great because, you know, you were able to recruit people of diverse backgrounds into leadership roles, and it showed their commitment.
Yeah, and you've got to drive down like that. I mean, that's the only way that real change actually happens. And I'm so much more understanding of that now. But you know, at the time that I was confronted with that, you know, you're initially defensive. I'm like, hey, you know my heart.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm like, you know who I am. Like
that's not intentional.
It's not intentional. We hire the best people for the job. I very rarely get, and this is absolutely true, I very rarely get candidates. I very, very, very rarely get diverse candidates. And you're initially defensive, and then, you know, luckily, I took up some time and let it sink in and said, that's an excuse. You know, I can make all the excuses that I want.
Right.
I can say, well, we're diverse in thought.
Yeah.
You know,
I've gotten that as well. Yeah.
We are
from
right?
some really large companies that told me, well, don't forget about diversity of thought. And I'm like, okay, well, show me how that shows up on your website.
Exactly. And how it really shows up in true diversity of thought.
Yeah.
You know, because the two of us are probably similar in age, right? We come from different, you know, I grew up in Appalachia, you know, you grew up in Western Pennsylvania, like, but how diverse are our thoughts, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
As men of the same age, right?
Sure.
For example. So that's why I've reached out to you. I was referred to you. Somebody told me you were the best, and I found that.
Thank them.
I found that so far to be true.
I appreciate that as well.
So far, so good.
Look, man, you know, I have plans to invite that person on because they're doing some incredible things in their community.
Yeah.
In the Hispanic Latino community, she's doing some incredible things. So, looking forward to sharing a conversation as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I mean, it's a beginning of you know what I really see is it's a beginning. You've helped us in the beginning of our diversity story, right? That if I have anything to do about it, it's not going to end. You know, we're going in paths where you know we're growing around the world. You know, our language diversity is going to grow. It's you know truly going after diverse candidates and welcoming them. You know, it's belonging has become a real buzzword, and getting them to belong into your culture, finding people who belong within your corporate culture. It's good for business.
Yeah.
It's good for you. It's good for your soul. It's good for everything.
You know, I was having a conversation and we just started talking about, you know, a lot of times when organizations reach out, they speak to me about the business case for diversity and inclusion. And, you know, that's all great. Yeah, I know that diverse teams outperform non-diverse teams and it impacts the bottom line. And I know that diversity allows you to connect better with your end customer and end user, and it has impact on the bottom line, right? But I think to the point that you made earlier, you know, there's a time when you're interviewing for talent. And, you know, you might need to expand your recruitment pools to identify diverse talent, but that's really what it's going to come down to. And when people, you know, I always just share, I'm like, I don't want you to just hire diversity just because you're looking to meet a number or meet a look. I want you to hire talented people that are qualified but diverse because they're out there, you know, and I think, like you were saying, you know, we don't get the candidates and people make all of these excuses, but sometimes the initiative is in driving that process.
Right. And it's like solving any other problem in your business. Like, okay, so you don't get the diverse candidates. So what, you just you stop.
Yeah, right.
Right. And this is all, this is all like self-flagellation after the fact. I mean, you don't think about it when you're in there. And I think that, I'm just lucky enough to have had the time to think about it and think about what it really means to the people we're serving, And so, I thank you for helping us.
Yeah, no, man, listen, it's been great. And I think you guys do some incredible things, just in reading up about your organization and what it is that you do. And then finding out the other pieces that come with you as a person, which we'll speak about a little later. But I wanted to speak to you about something because I think it's valuable information for our listeners and the people that will be watching us on the Philly Cam portal. You made a decision when you took that job. It sounds like, how was that transition from employee to owner? Like how's that work? And what's the mindset? Like, when did you start thinking in that way? Because I asked you this because, this is 2018 and there are a ton of people that have entrepreneurship on the mind because they want to, I guess, secure their own future and be responsible for that. And I think people aren't as afraid of what they may perceive to be losing by leaving a company. They just say, "No, what, I can do it, and let me get out here." So what was that process for you?
Well, I mean, for me, I got lucky. I had the women who very early on in my employment with them said, "Have you ever thought about buying a business?"
Okay.
And of course, my answer was nope. but let's hear it, and so years and years passed, and I made an offer, and in that offer was, you stay until I'm ready and you're ready.
Okay.
Right. And again, it's timing and it's luck and all of that stuff, but that's the way it played out. And they were able to introduce me to clients, to groom me, to get me ready. And so I felt completely comfortable from a business perspective.
Because you knew how the business worked.
I know how the business worked,
right.
and I had run the business.
Okay.
I had really essentially run the business for several years before I took over. But what I wasn't ready for was the emotional side of it. And
can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, it actually kind of leads to the other part of our conversation. It leads to what 3 Minute Storyteller is.
Okay.
It was born out of fear. It was born out of ulcers. It was born out of me taking over that business and really achieving everything that I thought that I wanted to achieve, and looking around and working so hard to do it, and looking around and being really unhappy.
Interesting. Okay.
And I never would have thought it either.
Right.
But when it hit, when I signed the check, when I signed the contract, and it hit, and I said, "Wow, it's mine. I get to do with this what I want to do with it." My first gut feeling was, I don't know if I want it.
So was that a fear, or was it just?
I was total fear.
Yeah. Okay.
It was total fear. Yeah. And there's been life crisis too.
Yeah.
Again, this is rearview mirror stuff,
Sure.
but I just had gotten to the point where it was like I'd worked so hard and put so much time and energy into it that I'd kind of stopped growing, and I'd stopped learning, and I'd even stopped talking to people because I was so driven to get this thing done.
Wow. Man, I'm listening to you speak about this, and now I see why we really get along, I believe. Because I went through some similar things. I was working for someone who taught me this business, and they kind of let me do what I wanted to do with it, and adjust it to, at the time, which was, it was 2000 when I came and did my own thing. So everything was new. The internet, it just was a new way to sort. Yeah. Job boards were becoming big. So from a gentleman that was used to the old ways of doing search, listen, we used to make resume books,
right,
and deliver them, get them velo bound and deliver them to Smith Klein or
Yeah.
Independence Blue Cross. Like, this is what we did. And we were selling the books. And if you made a hire out of the resume book, we would give you a reduced rate. I might need to bring that back.
Do you ever? Can you imagine explaining a triptych to somebody?
Yeah,
Right?
right, there you go. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Or a transparency.
So, I guess he was a little nervous about where things were going and hadn't adapted to technology as fast as I had. So it was like, you know what? I think I'm going to get out of here. But I had already had plans on how I foresaw or how I looked at what I wanted to do. Like, the way I wanted to do it was a straight diversity angle.
Okay.
And I wanted my own name. I didn't want to be associated. I didn't want it to look like somebody gave me a business.
Right.
Yeah. So because we had the same last name.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Right. So it's like, oh, you're a son.
That would have been easy. Yeah.
Business, right. But still a great mentor to me to this day. Like, when I have things going on, I always reach out and say, hey, tell me how you would handle this. But it really, I got to see the business, like you were saying. I knew the business. Yeah. And I was ready to do my own thing, but the fear and kind of jumping out there was enormous.
Oh, it's the worst, man.
Yeah.
It's the worst. It'll eat you up, and it's like, I've always thought of myself as somebody who, I put it out there. Like, I live, I go after it.
Okay.
Right. And I wasn't at all. And so, it was right then when 3 Minute Storyteller was born. That's how I deal with fear. I guess I just double down and say, all right, let's have two companies then. If I don't want the one, let's get
let me
two.
Just jump on two. Let's do two. I always tell the story the first day. So when we got the show, the radio show, and Vanessa, the station manager who you just met, she said, you want to start your show the first week of January. All right, sure, no problem. So I don't know. Let's just say it was January 3rd came, and I was this close to calling and saying, I'm not ready. Let's do the 10th. And I'm walking down from Broad Street. I was at Broad and what is this, Chestnut? Yeah. I was at Broad and Sampson. So I'm walking down, and every block I had changed my mind again. I'm like, 11th Street. You know what? We're not going to do this today. I'm going to cancel and we'll do it next week when I'm prepared. Had these notes, had everything, like a whole rundown of the show, pretty much scripted the show. And what had happened, it really threw me off. So I had a script for the show, and I'm like, you'll say this, and then Tiffany will chime in with this, and then Alberta will chime in with this. And Alberta called that morning, or maybe it was that afternoon, and said, I can't make it. So the script, there was a person missing from the script. Uh-oh. Yeah, the script is over with, right? So I'm like, know what? That's a sign. I'm going to cancel. And then eventually I just said, you know what? You just got to go do it. And we had a great show. I think we were a little nervous, but yeah, you just had to jump in.
You got to do it. I mean, because like when I started the 3 Minute Storyteller thing, like, I didn't know how to work a camera. And I'm starting a company that is focused on videos. You
guys are doing that platform, your website, everything. 3 Minute Storyteller. What's the web address for that?
Yeah, it's the number 3minutestoryteller.com or 3ms.co.
Outstanding. I didn't want to shift gears yet, but let's do it, man. I just tell people what the 3 Minute Storyteller is all about.
I mean, to me, it's not even shifting gears, right? It's like exactly what you said about your life and your work being one. Like, what I've realized is, like, there's no such thing as work-life balance. That's just made up.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's life, right? And when you start looking, to me anyway, when you start looking at your job as part of your life rather than work, that's when, again, at least for me, it allows me to free it up a little bit, right? And so it's part of my life. Again, at WD, what we do is we do corporate training. So I'm right around that time. I'm out and I'm teaching a class on public speaking.
Okay.
And I have a Chinese scientist in the room. English is not great, but has a PhD when she was in China, and another PhD when she came to the U.S.
Extremely intelligent person.
It's like over the moon, right? And she's delivering something that's really complex. and it is really hard to understand both the content and her.
And yeah.
And so I'm working with her and I'm coaching her, and she's getting really, was obviously frustrated. I mean, who wouldn't be? You're in your second language and you're talking about complexity. It's just over the heads of anybody.
Sure.
And what I said to her was, why don't we start this next presentation by you just telling your story of your life?
Okay.
She's like, why would that be relevant? Let's go with it.
Trust me.
Right? And she did. And she segued beautifully from her life into the content she was supposed to deliver. And at the end of it, there's probably 10 or 15 people in the room. 10 or 15 people are weeping.
Are you serious?
Me
wow.
included.
Wow.
her included.
Yeah.
Standing, people got out. It's just like a little class, right? Got out of their chairs to applaud her. And she said through her tears, I'll never forget it. She said, I never realized that all I ever had to do was tell my story. Mm-hmm. And I went home that night, and I was like, Shannon, I went to my wife, and I was like, Shannon, I think I got something, I got something. My whole life has been helping people tell their stories. And my wife actually had an interview show on local TV.
Really? Okay,
so same kind of thing. We're similarly wired. She's a great interviewer.
Makes sense.
And I said, you want to do this? And she's like, yeah. She's like, well, you mean just like long conversations? I'm like, no, we can't do that. That's not the world we live in. Let me do some research. And so I went on and I started looking around, and what I found was that your average YouTube view at that time, it was 2015, was a little less than 4 minutes.
Right.
And so, okay, there we go.
There you go.
Right, there we go. And so we thought we were going to go out and we were going to talk to people for 10 minutes and cut it down into 3. We go to the first interview and we talk for like an hour and a half. We got all this footage.
You got all this.
And I'm like, oh, now I need to learn how to edit.
You know what? I was getting ready to point to Bruce. Yeah, he's always like, Ken, there's a lot of footage. Tell me what you want to do. I'm like, I don't know. Pick something else, right?
And it's all good stuff too, man. I love it all. Like, I'd love to put it all out there, but yeah. So we just started. We just dove in, and we just started emailing people and saying, we love your story. You want to give us 15 minutes?
It's interesting because I was reading the website. I believe, I was on the plane coming back, and I was looking at the 3-Minute Storyteller website, and I saw the piece where you guys were, I believe, expanding because people had requested hearing the whole conversation.
Yeah.
And as I listened to 2 or 3, I said, I want to hear the rest of this.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. Just if you're looking at the way people view content now, like you have to kind of make it.
Well, I mean, my philosophy of it was, let's hook them. Let's get good enough people. Let's get fascinating enough people where if they see 3, they're going to want to go and just find everything, right?
Got you. So then it's up to the person to start doing the research.
It's on you.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And what sort of happened over time is we're both, my wife and I are both writers. And we, our little blurbs started going from 2 sentences to 2 pages. and because we love it, we dig into it. And our thing is, how do we tell our own story through these people? What connects us? What brought us to Ernest Owens, who's here at Philly Cam, who was up on our site now. It's last week's Storyteller. What brought us to Kevin Bacon? What?
You got a Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, he's coming up soon.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah.
Maybe this week, maybe next. Yeah, but just recently had a conversation with him and his brother.
I'm not worried about Kevin Bacon. We got Mike Mannon here. So I'm worried about Kevin Bacon. Amateurs. Oh man, outstanding. I of course I need you to tell me about Scarlett.
Oh, the bus.
Yeah, see, I was locked in. I was looking all over
That's
this
good.
website.
Yeah, so the logo and our sort of heart and soul is our 1974 Volkswagen bus that we've turned into a mobile studio. So we'll go out and we'll put the mics and the cameras in, and it's kind of a big show when that thing pulls up because you don't see a whole lot of those things.
You don't, right, exactly.
And so people have fun with it. We draw people into into the whole brand through it, really, and it's usable, and it's been my little pet project to restore for the last 8 months.
I love it. It's the Career Seeker Show live, WPPM 106.5 FM Philly. This is what we do. We do it every Wednesday from 4 to 5. We are here with Mike Mannon. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about the 3-minute story. Let's go. Just in speaking about the conversation with Ernest, and just in kind of like polarizing views and polarization, any comments on that at all?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what we've now, I guess, it's what's become the theme of what 3-minute storyteller is. It's reaching out to people outside of our bubble, and when we're in this cultural moment that we're in right now, I mean, what do you do about polarization, right? Hopefully you surround yourself with people on the other side and listen.
Yes.
You jump into a bubble that's not your own. You try to explain how you maybe can connect with others, to people that are like you, and I don't know, maybe they'll do the same. Maybe most importantly, you don't get so pissy about everything.
Right,
I mean, sorry, can I say that on radio? But like, that's, to me, it's like there's only so many things you can do, and like, we can all complain about how separated we are, or we can maybe reach out and try to do a little something about it.
Right.
And I don't know how much we're doing about it, but like, that's what we're trying to do.
Well, you're doing your piece, You're not sitting on your hands and just saying things just aren't right. Things aren't good. Like, what do you do about it individually?
And that's kind of the way we start our conversation with the whole fear piece, right?
Yes.
Man, at a point in your life, it becomes easier to sit on your hands, right? You start accumulating things. You've got maybe a little money in the bank. Things are going okay. It's pretty easy to sit on your hands.
Sure.
But is that what you want to do with your life?
Hopefully not. But so many people do.
Right?
So many people do. Wow. Just an interesting concept in itself, especially when you speak about, I'm just thinking about you as a business owner, and, your piece to which you can, your ad can be so varied, 3-minute storytelling, how you conduct business with WD, and it all, like you said, it all merges into its life. It's not work life. It doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And, I'll go out and do a class these days. I'll talk to people about clear communication. That's what we do. That's what the WD brand is clear communication. And I'm like, look, something I've learned in the last couple of years, if you can't get your message across in 3 minutes, nobody's listening anyway. Right?
Speaking of getting messages across, how do the Career Seeker Show listeners get in contact with Mike Mannon?
Yeah, so we are, it's 3ms.co or the number 3minutestoryteller.com, and I'm M Mannon at 3minutestoryteller.com. And the thing I'd love for people to get into contact with us is if you've got storytellers, if you've got people with compelling stories that are compelling on camera, right? Reach out to us, because in the Philadelphia area, we're always looking.
I love it, man. Thank you so very much for hanging out with us today. It's the Career Seeker Show. We do this each and every Wednesday from 4 to 5 on WPPM LP Philadelphia 106.5 FM. I'd like to thank all the listeners that tuned in on 106.5 in Philly. Hope we made your drive home just a little more interesting. Also, everybody that tuned in on the East Coast Executive Facebook fan page, I appreciate y'all, because you went the extra mile just to listen. All our streamers, the people that stream live at phillycam.org, we appreciate you as well. On behalf of the Career Seeker Show team, I'd like to thank Mike Mannon for coming out today, man. We really appreciate you. Did it again. What's good, everybody? I want to thank everybody that checked in on 106.5 FM out here in Philly. Everybody that's checked in on the phillycam.org. Everybody that's checked in on East Coast Executives Facebook fan page. We really appreciate you, man, for listening. We know you got stuff to do, but you choose to spend an hour with us. Tiffany Southerland, on behalf of Tiffany Southerland and Alberta Blum, I'm sorry. It's the Career Seeker Show, man. We do it every week. WPPM LP Philadelphia. Let's go.